Hello, everyone. Welcome to Interstellar Chats. This is Carlene, and I am here with Kristin and James. Today, we're going to be talking about out-of-body experiences. How are you guys?
Good.
Excellent. So glad to be here with you guys. Let's dive in. We've had some tech issues all morning, so now we're here and we're ready to go, and let's get it going.
Out of body.
Who wants
Wow.
to start? James, how about if we have you start with your experience having out-of-body experience? I know you've had several, so let's have you start today.
Well, I would say I don't know that I wouldn't say that they were necessarily. I think what most people would consider out-of-body experiences. For me, I have had dreams where I wake up and I leave myself and I see my body behind me, and I go and do, things like that, and then I come back, and I can see my body still there. I've had those experiences, but not necessarily like a meditative out of body experience.
So like not a purposeful experience that just sort of happened.
Yeah, I mean, those were just my dream state, though. My only other experiences that I would consider out of body were more when I was in my coma. I was in a coma, and I was definitely out of body in those moments.
Well, tell us a little bit about that, because we have lots of new subscribers and we're just getting to know each other. So you say you were in a coma. Can you tell us, or you feel comfortable telling us a little bit about your experience?
Sure. I had a traumatic brain injury, and I was in a coma for several days, and I just remember I felt as if I was perched up high, and I could see uh, myself, and I could see my friend Pamela, and I could see my mother, and I could see the room, and I definitely was not in myself. And then the interesting thing is that I could see all of that, and I knew what my friend Pamela had on, I knew what my mother had on, and but when I woke up from the coma, I was blind.
Oh,
So yeah.
That's interesting. So you definitely were out of your body. You definitely were looking at them.
Mhm.
But when you woke up, you couldn't actually see them, but you saw them from
And
your
what was interesting was the process of actually waking up, pulling myself from up there back into making this thing work, was really hard. And it was kind of funny because my friend Pamela was telling a story to my mother that I had told her in confidence, that I didn't want my anybody to know. And it was my sister was pregnant, and nobody knew. And my friend Pamela said to my mother, "Oh, I heard your daughter. You're going to be a grandmother." And she goes, "Oh yeah, but my sister Leslie was pregnant at the time, and she was talking about my other sister." And I could hear this whole conversation, and my body, I went, I just took all the force that I had inside me and tried to move, and I slightly made a sound, and they all were like, I think he's coming out of it. And but that was so difficult.
So you
To
were trying to get them to stop talking?
yes, yes, I was. And then my friend Pamela, years later, when she talks about the story, she said she thought the exact same thing. She was like, "Oh my God, he heard me. He knew, and he was trying to stop me." So
That's awesome.
That's
Um,
very cool.
so how did your mom react? Like, did she ever figure it out that she was talking about something else?
oh no, no, my mom, she didn't figure that out. But
Awesome.
I will say, so being in that state, it's just like a state of grace, basically, when your body is supposedly supposed to be dying. And that's kind of where I was at. And I had a lot of spiritual experiences definitely happen in those times for me. I
When you say
remember
those times, are you talking about when you were in a coma?
actually, when I came out of the coma,
Mhm.
I had to go through about a year and a half of this experimental chemotherapy treatment to get rid of the type of meningitis I had. It was one of the most deadly forms of meningitis, and I had extreme brain damage due to that, and a mistake that was made after my surgery. So, but anyways, I was
So
having
essentially, you're saying that you're a miracle. You
I
are a miracle.
definitely had, I've asked for help and received it, that's for sure. But when I was going through chemotherapy, I saw, this might not be necessarily uh, outer body, but my physical body itself was just at a certain, I would say, frequency. And I could see my eyes were slightly closed and slightly open. And I could see these beings around me tending to me. And I thought they were children because of their size is what it seemed like. And I just watched them. It seemed like one of them was putting something on my head, and they were just caring for me. So yeah, that was
Wow,
That's pretty cool.
awesome.
quite remarkable.
Yeah.
So my out of body experience is something completely different. Like, it didn't have anything to do with a traumatic experience or being sick in any way. It just happened, right? So the first time this happened to me, where I'm cognizant, I'm awake, and I'm aware that it's actually happening, that I'm coming out of my body.
Mhm.
I was in college, and I was in my apartment, and I'm sleeping on the bed. And the first thing that happens is, and this is kind of strange in the beginning, because I was like just thinking it was a normal experience, but I'm just laying there and I feel what seems like my dog jumping over my body into the bed. And I feel boom, like the first two paws, and then the second two paws, like he just jumped in. It's a big dog, like something like a lab or a German Shepherd or something like that, jumps over my body into the bed. And I immediately woke up, and I'm like, oh, well, no, that's not right. I woke up briefly. You know how like you're kind of in sleeping and you're kind of coming out of it, like, oh, it's just the dog. And I was going to go right back to sleep. And then I kind of popped up and I was like, I don't have a dog. Like, I did not have a dog but this dog just jumped right into my bed, and I was just like, oh, it's just the dog. No, I don't have
That's
a dog.
funny.
But on the same night, what happened was, I don't know if I was having one of those lucid dreams where you're just kind of, you know what's happening as it's happening, but then it just didn't, there was no dream involved. All of a sudden, I'm just lifting my body up, or I want to say my being, my soul, out of my body, right? I'm just, and it's so slow that it's bizarre, almost scary, because first of all, I don't know what's happening. And I feel like myself, my body, my soul coming out of my body from my head only. So my head's coming out, but I feel blood, I feel tissue, I feel bone, I feel my, like it's red in there for some reason, like it's red color. I'm seeing red, I guess, right? But as I'm coming out, like I feel my face stretching and I'm coming out of my body. It's just so weird. And at the same time, I'm also like trying to get back into my body because I don't know what's happening. So I'm shaking my head. And as I'm shaking my head, I feel my being, my soul going back and forth through my body, out of my body, through my body, out of my body on the other side, and back and forth and back and forth. And then that was it. Like, I just was like, I was able to wake myself up. And first of all, I'm freaked out because a dog jumped in my bed, and then I'm coming out of my body, like all at the same time, or on the same night, the same experiences. So that for me was my very first occurrence of coming out of my body. And since then, I've had many occasions where I've come out of my body. Some because I wanted to, and others because it was just not a good situation. I was actually being pulled out of my body, but I can tell you about that in a second. But I want to hear from you, Kristin. Have you had a situation or something that's happened like that where you came out of your body?
Yeah, I would say the one time that I came out, and I really have always wanted to be able to do that again, but I think the circumstances were so specific. And even though I've wanted to do it again, I haven't maybe been in a place where I felt safe enough to leave my body, because I think that is a factor, that fear factor. But in this case, I was not in a pleasant place, but I had been sitting still for a long, long time, and I just started moving through the room, and I don't remember actually coming out, like the feeling of coming out. I was just out and I was on the move. I did not look back. I just went, and I went through the house, through the walls, down the stairs. I mean, I was going through walls.
Wow.
But it felt like I was in the room, I was in the room. I'm looking over here, I'm looking over there. I'm going to go in this room. And I remember thinking, let me open the door, but then not opening the door, just going through the door and down the stairs. And it was a spiral staircase. And I just went straight down. I didn't go on the stairs. I just kind of floated down, and then through the front door of the building, out onto the street. And I was looking around, and then I was like, oh, there's nothing here. Because I was looking for somebody specifically, and there was nobody there. And in a split second, I just opened my eyes and I was back in my body. And so
Wow.
that was definitely out of the body experience and that floating experience, but I don't remember actually coming out or going back in. I don't remember that process part, which is really cool that you have that experience, because that sounds really like gelatinous almost.
It's very
I've had
visceral,
an-
for sure.
I've had an experience during meditation where it's happened twice, where I really felt like I was about to slip out of myself. And what's interesting is it felt like it was starting from like my hip area, that I was sliding that way, like I was sliding out of myself. And I felt fearful about it. And so it stopped. But I had that happen twice.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
so fear definitely plays a big role in how we react and how the experience turns out or ends, right? Because as soon as we get that fear that comes over us, it almost stops the experience. And you get back into your 3D body, right? At least that's happened for me at times, and I feel we can control that. Like if we can be cognizant enough to say, okay, I'm out of my body, there's no reason to be afraid, I'm protected, and have the intention that you're protected, then we can continue to have these experiences without feeling fearful.
Yeah, I think in my situation, I was so connected at that time because I was sitting for so long that fear, that never even came into my mind. And I think that's why when I left my body, I didn't even look back. I just went, and I didn't question it either. I was just like, I'm going downstairs, I'm going down the street, I'm gonna go see what's up. And it never crossed my mind that I was leaving my body. It never crossed my mind to be afraid. It just didn't cross my mind.
But
I
you
was
knew you were out of your body, right? You
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
knew you were out. Okay.
I was out because when I got back in, I knew it. Like
Yeah.
it was like it was like that glistening sort of tingling feeling in the physical body throughout the body that's just kind of like, and you feel like, whoa, and your eyes just open and you're like, oh, what was that? Like, what just happened?
Mhm.
Yeah. And then, it wasn't until after I got back in my body that I realized that I was out.
Mhm.
Because I had just seen all of these things. And how did I know that? I just left, very much like James, you sitting in the top of, up over yourself looking down. It was like, that was a real thing because it feels different. It's not like a dream, like you're flying in a dream.
Yeah.
It was definitely like a visceral experience.
So Kristin, when you got back into your body, you said you immediately woke up, right?
Yeah. It
So
wasn't
James,
it wasn't a startling wake up. It was just kind of like, it was like a breath, almost like a,
yeah. Because I've had these experiences too. When I come out of my body, when I get back in, I wake my 3D body, my full body right now that I can touch wakes up.
yes.
So James, did that happen to you when you came back into your body? Because I know that was a different situation where you were in a coma or afterwards still coming out of your body.
Now, when I came out of my coma, it was a process. It felt like a process. But I have had I guess it was an outer body experience. I was in LA, and I was out of my body in my bedroom, and I realized that I was on the ceiling, and I thought, oh, I'm going to go up the hall because my friends Jay and Felix lived up the hall, and so I went up the hall, but for some reason I could never get off the ceiling. And then I went into their apartment. But see, and then I went back home and went back to bed. But for me, I didn't know that I could call that an out of body experience. For me, it felt like it was a dream as well. So,
Well, and that's the case too. Sometimes we just don't know what it is. We don't know what's happening because we either haven't had a previous experience or something to compare it to, or you don't have that visceral type feeling like I had when my face was coming out of my body.
yeah. See, when I was coming out of my coma, it was like my whole body was in cement, basically, and it flowed like cement. And so being able to even, blink was like just so much effort
Mhm.
with it.
That's so amazing. I never thought about that. I think that's really amazing, like your description of coming out of a coma. I wonder if other people who have been in comas have that same feeling. It would be interesting if anybody watching has had that feeling like you're coming out of cement.
Well, it's actually felt like that for many years afterwards, just making my body move, especially, a few years after coming out of the coma, just how my body moves. It sometimes feels like, again, like I'm in quick drying cement sometimes.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, it makes me wonder, that feeling when you come back into your body, right? And James, you talking about your out of the body experience being like you always thought it was a dream. So when you got back, did you have that kind of awakening where your body started tingling and you just kind of woke up? Did you wake
Um,
yourself up out of that dream?
I went back to myself and saw myself in bed, and I got back inside me, and and I woke up, but I thought that was the end of my dream, you know.
But you did wake up after that.
Mhm, I did.
And did you
Yeah.
have, what was the feeling that you had when you woke up at that point? Did you
I
have
thought
a,
I thought I had visited Jay and Felix, and I was rolling around on their ceiling.
but
Is
like
what
in your physical body, when you woke up, did you have like a tingling feeling? Was it like a startling feeling? Did you just take a deep breath and wake up? What was the
I
actual
think it
feeling?
might have been more of just like a start, a little bit, a little startling, but not maybe, yeah, more like a little startling.
That's interesting because there were a couple other dreams that I've had that I classify as maybe somebody visiting me. But the same thing happened. I kind of woke with a bit of a start and a deep breath, and a tingling sensation through my body. And I always thought that I was being visited by somebody else. But and now that we're having this conversation, I'm wondering if it's not the other way around. And that feeling, that start and that deep breath is actually you coming back into your body after leaving it. And maybe the places that we travel when we are sleeping, it's not necessarily through that room and through walls, but at the vibratory level, right? At the resonance level, you can travel many dimensions in 1 second and just be somewhere else completely, having a conversation with somebody else that could feel like a dream. But in my dream state, I have never woken with a start, with that tingling feeling. That's something different for
I
sure.
definitely feel like there's differences in the texture again, right? It's just how your body feels or how you feel coming in and out of these different states of multidimensionality. Because when you guys know that I've had visitations and contact with other worlds many times, and it always feels completely different than me coming out of my body, but still being in this world, right?
Right.
So let me give you a couple of different instances where I have come out of my body. And when I get back into my body, I definitely wake up. I wake up immediately, and usually it's with a start. It's with a, oh my gosh, and because these two things were kind of significant, and one of them was incredibly disconcerting and scary. I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you guys in a previous video, but did I tell you about when I was running I was running a long distance trail race, and it was in Huntsville, Texas, which is where the big prisons are, where they have the capital punishment. So they put people to the death penalty and stuff like that. So craziness happened. I had no idea anything like this was going to happen when I said, yes, I'll go run this race. Because at the time I was training for a marathon. So I'll tell you about this if you guys don't remember, or if I haven't told you.
I haven't heard it. Let's hear it.
Okay, great. Excellent. So this was definitely an out-of-body experience. And up until this point, I've had several experiences where I've come out, but I typically, and it's not like it was when I was in college, right? Because that was the very first time. So it was very, very feel every cell of my body and the bone and the tissue and all that. It wasn't like that. I would just pop up halfway out of my body. So I'm laying in bed, but I'm sitting up and the rest of my body is laying down. So my soul or my being is just up out of my body. And I'm either looking around or I'm communicating, talking, just figuring, just whatever is happening around me. I've never had any fear surrounding those instances because they've always been very benign. It just was me coming out of my body, no big deal. I enjoyed it because I got to see different things, talk to people, what have you. But this one time, and I've had two that were very disconcerting, like I said. So this one time was when I was running this race, and I was going with a friend, and she and I were sharing a hotel in Huntsville, Texas. So I immediately, being very aware, very psychic, very empathic, as soon as we pulled into the parking lot of this place, I knew something didn't feel right. It felt very creepy, very dense, and not necessarily ugly, but kind of those feelings, right? It just felt heavy and it felt awful. It felt really awful and not good in a good way. It was very negative. So anyway, I remember getting out of the car and kind of walking quickly to get into the hotel because it just didn't feel good. And it was evening. So we had gone after work to get to this place. We were going to run first thing in the morning the next day to do this trail run. It was like a 15-mile run. So we got there the night before because it was a long early start. And anyway, so we get inside the hotel, and I remember I forgot something in the car. So I go back out to the car, and it is just, now I'm by myself. I'm not with my friend, right? So it just is an increased creepy feeling of being in this place that just feels really yuck, like to the max, almost like one of those scary movies where, it just felt kind of like that. It was that
Right.
feeling of anxiety and just like something is around the corner, something's near me, something's just not right. So I literally remember running to the car, getting what I needed, and like sprinting back to the hotel and like being out of breath when I got to the hotel, and be like, whoa, it feels really weird out there. And then I just dropped it. I didn't think anything more of it. But long story short, went to bed, and then I pop up out of my body and I'm just kind of halfway out. Like I said, I just kind of sit up. The rest of my body's laying down. I'm sitting up, and around me, I see several, like 3 to 5 dark figures, like shadows, just dark, translucent, almost like there's no detail. I just see a dark figure. And there's like 3 to 5 of them. And they are at this point, I've never really noticed me coming completely out of my body, only just sitting up and noticing things and being like, oh, I'm out of my body. How cool is this? At this point, I'm halfway up, and these dark figures, these shadow beings, do not feel good at all. It's definitely negative. And they take me by the arms, and they are literally pulling me out of my body. So pulled me completely out of my body. And at this point, I'm shaking my head because I remember if I shake my head, really, I can get back into my body. I can force myself right back in. And it wasn't happening. It was like they literally had me under their control, and they're taking me out of the hotel room. And before, like, I know if this happens, it's not a good thing, right? Because it's just not. It feels horrible. And anyway, I'm being pulled out. I can't get myself back in. And my friend who's in the other bed, literally pops up out of her body and says, Carlene, where are you going? And immediately I'm back into my body, and I don't get taken out. It's like her popping up startled them, or they were just like, oh, we're noticed. We see, she sees us. She knows some, whatever. I don't know what exactly happened for them, but they released me. And when she said, where are you going? I immediately was back in my body.
Wow.
That has stuck with me like my whole life. I was just like,
Wow.
that was something not good. And of course, like I said, this was Huntsville, and where they do the capital punishment in Texas. And I don't know if it was that or something else. I just attribute it to a lot of people being executed that may or may not have, obviously they didn't want to, but a lot of entities may be hanging around the area. And
For
I
sure.
remember when I got back into my body, I woke up and it was really early, like too early to get up and start getting ready for the race. But I woke up and I was like, Michelle, get up, we're leaving, right? Get up. So she woke up and she's like, why are you getting ready? Like, why are you getting ready for? I said, long story, I'll tell you later. We got to get out of this hotel room. So she didn't even question me. She got up and started getting dressed, and she's like, okay, like she must have felt something was off with me and my energy and just wanting to leave the hotel. So we get up and we leave, and we're out of there, and we're at the race now, right? And we got there early, and I'm telling her about the whole situation or whatever. And I don't know if you've ever done a trail race, but when you start, just like any race, there's a lot of people, a foot race, right? There's a lot of people at the start. And you not only are running in a big street, you're now running in a trail. So it's a lot of people trying to get through this bottleneck to get on a trail until you spread out. So I'm telling her about this occurrence, this experience, and there's all these people around. We separated the crowd. So we were able to actually get a little bit of room to run the race because the crowd was just like, let them go. Yeah, but anyway, that's one experience that I had. And like I said, that's stuck with me for a long time. But I do know beyond a shadow of a doubt that those dark type entities and things that have our negative, I don't know, vibration, that lower vibration, as long as you can set your intention to always be protected, at this point in time, we are always protected, and we don't have to be afraid. Like, I am not at all at this point in my life, because that was probably, 18, 19 years ago, something like that actually happened. So long time ago, and we're in a different time right now. So if we come out of our bodies, we can feel safe and secure that nothing bad is going to happen to us. And especially if we're lucid enough to be able to make sure that we can get back in and what have you. But the second thing that happened, this might have even happened. No, this was after. So I'm laying in bed, and I'm dating someone at the time, and that person comes up out of their body. So me coming out of my body is a reaction to her coming out of her body. So she actually comes out, and I see her body laying there, but I see her reaching up and has this most horrific, terrified look on her face. Like, it is something I literally cannot even describe. Like, it is a distortion of her. So it doesn't even really look like her, but it's a distorted version or whatever. And she's reaching up, and I can see actually above her, there's a dark entity above her. And I don't know what's happening. I just see, like, I don't know why that's occurring, but I see what's happening. And I come up out of my body, and for whatever reason, again, when you come up, like when someone else comes up and they're seen, they leave. I don't know why that is, but this is now more than one occurrence. And this actually happened 2 times with this person that I was dating. But this one time, it was just that terrified look that I was like, oh my gosh, I literally woke up and shook her, and I was like, hey, are you okay? And she looked at me and she was like, I'm sleeping, doesn't even know that was happening in her sleep time, or that she came up out of her body, or that, she was like, what's wrong? I'm sleeping. You just woke me up.
I think that's really, really fascinating, because there's such a disconnect between these two sides of our being.
Mhm.
And you can be having these experiences and not even know it.
Not even know it.
But the evidence of it will be energetically imprinted. There will be evidence in your
Mhm.
life that if you're not consciously looking for it, you would never find it because it's
Right.
so subtle.
Mhm. So to go a little further on this same subject with that person, just probably like, I don't know, within a week or two, another occurrence happened.
Yeah.
And this time there again was a dark being above, like this shadow being above her. And I came up out of my body and I was like, no, like I'm talking to this person now. I'm like, no, you leave, you just get out, you leave. And pointing like she was over here at this time. And I'm like, go, like I'm literally like, get out of here. You are not welcome, leave. And this dark entity floated over towards me and turned into this like shapeshifter, like turned into this beautiful looking person so that I was no longer afraid. And I was like, no, leave, get out. And I just kept saying, get out, get out, get out. And he was like, but, I'm like, no, get out. And he did leave. So he just left. And I don't know if it was a good or bad thing. I know it was absolutely whatever was happening with her. And it just was not for me, but I saw it both times and told it to leave that second time. The other time I woke up and woke her up. So two
That's
different things.
interesting. I
Yeah.
wonder if, that makes me think of the whole vampiric energy, I guess, situation where there are other beings just sort of feeding off the energy of the human, right? So whatever light that she was carrying, they were just trying to get some of it.
Yeah, or there's negativity or fear or some stuff that's attached to her or what have you. I don't know. I've never wanted to try to figure that part out, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it just had a negative, low vibe to me, and that relationship did not last long at all because there was just energetic stuff there that just wasn't a match, right? So
Yeah, she had a lot of those
lot of
beings
stuff,
around her,
lot of stuff.
probably.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so interesting because those attachments, I really feel they're so real, and people don't even know that they're there because they can't see. And just like your friend, like she's like, I'm sleeping, like she has no idea, but
Mhm.
probably in her life was feeling the effects of that
Right.
drainage.
Truly.
And probably you saw those 2 times, but I'm sure that happens to her a lot where there's nobody there to say, beat it.
Right.
Yeah, and she's not saying it because she doesn't know what's happening.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that was a long time ago. So since then,
Right.
I am so much more aware of coming out of my body. And also I'm aware enough to make sure that my body is protected. So I set the intention that if I plan to come out of my body, I will set the intention before I go to sleep that I'm protected, and Archangel Michael will protect me, and whoever I call on, guides, archangels, what have you, to protect my body. Because when you leave, if you're unaware of this, if you leave your body, it is quite possible for another
Okay.
entity to come in, and you are now no longer in that body, and you've lost your 3D vehicle, your meat suit, your
Yep.
body in this lifetime. And if we think about that, even in psychological terms, there are people who like wake up and they're all of a sudden a different person, or they have a psychotic break, or they're now, completely different person, or different personalities. What does that tell us? Is there other entities that are in that body, or did that person unknowingly leave and something else came in and now it's completely different? There are so many things to think about with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
So
totally believe that. And I feel like I've seen the effects of that on other people. Once I became aware of it myself, of what actually happened, and started, investigating and putting the pieces together, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like that person who's, behaving in this negative way, that might not even be them
Right.
anymore. They could have been kind of taken over, but the body remains the same. And Go ahead. A lot of the personality is still there, but like the intention, the energy behind the body is completely different.
Have you ever had the experience of saying, why did I say that?
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
You why did I say that? That's not what I felt, or that's not what I meant.
Yeah,
What's that about?
that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't happen to me anymore, but certainly in the years past, certainly. I
Yeah,
was definitely not driving my vehicle.
right.
Yeah.
So I know that I've in the past had thoughts, not necessarily that I've said them, but thoughts that are not of the light, like whether it's a negative thought or a not nice thought, or even sometimes a violent thought. And then
Carlene, you have a dark side? What?
right, no, this is what I'm getting at. Well, like when something like that comes through your brain or your head, and you have that thought and you immediately think, what the hell, like why did I think that? You
Yeah.
have to understand that it's not actually you.
Yeah,
It
I
is
always think, oh, that's not for me. That's
right.
not for me.
And
Yeah.
but it took me a while to figure that part out, because I would just be beating myself up like, why did I have that thought? That's crazy. I would never think that. I would never do that. I would never say that. Why did I have
Right.
that thought? But when we were in the throes of having all the negative entities around us, and the dark, you know, the cabal, or the black hat, dark hats, whatever you want to call them, right? The people that were out there, the puppeteers, which are no longer here, I really truly feel like some of that darkness was attaching itself to the light, right? Because the dark wants to try to put out the light. So when that happened, I finally got to the point where it's like you said, James, like, that's not for me. That is not me. That's not my thought. You can leave. That's not me. And I've since then have felt so much better. And since I've done it, I never have those thoughts anymore, you know?
Right? Yeah, you get to command it.
Yeah.
That just reminds me of a movie. You know, I love movies, and I was sort of sideswiped by the Mel Gibson movie. I don't know if you guys have seen The Passion, about Jesus.
The Passion of the Christ. I saw it a long time ago. Yeah.
Mel Gibson version.
Oh, actually, I
That's
don't
the
remember. I don't
that's the crucial key, is the Mel
Okay.
Gibson version, because he really is like, he does not gloss it over. He's not trying to, you know, make Jesus all pretty rosy cheeks, right? Like all the statues that are available and all the pictures that are available. Like, he really goes like into the history and creates this movie sort of in a way that would be true to the word of the story. So fast forward, I was really like, it's overwhelming, but I do recommend watching it, but maybe with a blindfold on hand, just in case if it gets too much. But
Right.
there's a scene where Jesus is on the cross, and the other two prisoners are also up on the cross. They're all nailed up. And there's a dark cloaked figure going through the crowd that has gathered at the feet of these crosses. And he's just like whispering in the ears of all the people standing there. And after he whispers in the ears of the men, they're like the Jewish law people, I forget, the Pharisees, right? He's whispering in their ears, and they start vocalizing what it is that they just heard. These are their thoughts, right? So they're not their thoughts. They're literally parroting the thought that was fed to them.
Yeah.
Without using their own core discernment to say like, oh yeah, no, that's not me. They're just literally, yeah, kill him, oh, he's this, he's that, or, you know, whatever they're saying. And that to me was such a revolutionary scene. Like, it was just so great to see that played out, because you hear it in the teachings. If you grew up Christian, you've heard this, you know, that the devil has, you know, tricky ways, and you got to be careful and all that. But to see it like whispering in the ear, and then the people are just saying it without thinking. They're sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
for
the
it to be
definition.
a dark entity, that was really, that symbolism was huge, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's very huge symbolism, yeah, for sure. But I think it's a very true thing when we look at some of those thoughts that come into our heads that, you know, are not for everyone's highest good.
That's right.
And
And
then you're
not to
like,
beat
"Oh, wait a
ourselves
minute."
up over it. Be like, okay, I reject that. That's not who I am. That's not my
Yeah,
mission in this life, and just release it. And when you do that, you recognize it, you put it off, it will leave, because it's not attracted to your vibration. So it leaves.
exactly. Yeah, it will leave eventually, but there is that initial practice. Like you have to be like, wait, no. But and then they will leave because they realize they don't have their hooks on you anymore, and they
That's
can't
right.
get you to do what they want you to do.
That's right. That's right. James, any last thoughts before we wrap this up?
Well, I don't know.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I think
Let's Carlene, just real quick, let's talk about, just really quick to add on to this. I know we're running out of time, but if you wanted to have an out of the body experience and you wanted to practice this in your own life, how would you go about doing it? What would your, like, let's say 3 steps?
what a wonderful question. Okay, so I can tell you right off the bat what I would do if I want to have an out of body experience. So let's say tonight, I'm going to make it a point, I'm going to have an out of body experience.
Let's all do it.
I go to bed and I will prepare myself through a short meditation and just ask for the experience, and even set the intention of what I want the experience to be, so that I feel in control, even if it's just to come out and to notice the room and to see that my body is still in the bed, but I'm out, like really benign situation. Or if I want to go visit James in Texas and I'm in Florida, I can set that intention, right? But not only would I set the intention and prepare myself, I would also ask for protection for my body. So I might call in my guides, or, Archangel Michael, because he's definitely the protector. I would call him in to ask for protection. But another thing is to use sound, because sound can help us literally get into that multidimensional space for these experiences to take place. So gamma waves, just playing 8 hours on YouTube of gamma waves, right? So the frequency of gamma rays, which actually helps reprogram or reorganize our brains to be in those higher levels of consciousness, those states of consciousness that helps us get out of our bodies. So I would do those 3 things.
Okay, so you would set your intention to leave your body, ask for the experience. That's number 1. Number 2 is call in your guides for protection, and Archangel Michael, the protector, to protect your body while you're gone. And 3, add gamma wave sound, like a sound machine, but
just a video from YouTube. Absolutely.
Yep, from YouTube.
I would do those 3 things.
Nice. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Should we set the intention tonight to go meet somewhere, guys?
Yeah, let's do it. And then we can come back and report on it.
Okay.
Where should we go?
Let's say, where should we go?
I'm thinking, where?
I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, I'm thinking either like maybe we go to a plateau in Sedona,
Ooh,
or
I like that.
we go, to a hut in Fiji.
I was thinking Egypt myself.
Ooh, we could visit the pyramids.
Okay, you want to do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we'll set that intention for ourselves tonight, and we'll report back on it.
Okay.
So it may not be the very next episode, but we will report back on that. Okay. So with that, thank you all for joining us in Interstellar Chats. This is Carlene with Kristin and James. Thank you all, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Yeah.